Hi, in this video, we're going to talk about careers in the truss and components industry. My name is Chad Johnson. I work for Truss Components of Washington. I've been in the truss industry for over 30 years. Let's go ahead and start out with what is a roof truss, a floor truss, or a wall panel. These are typical building components in light wood frame construction that you would see built at a component manufacturing plant. So a roof truss is the frame that makes up the shape of the roof and the structure of the roof above the walls. A wall panel is a section of framed wall that would be used to make up the walls either on the outside or the inside of a house. And a floor truss is a manufactured joist that would make up the difference between a first floor and a second floor, a basement and a first floor. It is the structure of the floor system in both residential and commercial structures. Roof trusses, floor trusses, and wall panels are manufactured in a factory setting to improve the efficiency and consistency of building projects out in the field. The roof trusses, floor trusses, and wall panels are not only built to meet the structural requirements of the building, but also the aesthetic requirements, and they're designed to make the construction efficient and therefore more economical on the job site. Why does this industry matter? Well, traditional framing on site is slow and requires a lot of skilled labor, which means that it costs more money. So the pre-manufactured components like roof trusses, floor trusses, and wall panels are used on almost every job site today, and they speed up the process, increase the consistency, and make building a structure more affordable. Additionally, by manufacturing these components in a factory, it makes it possible to build year-round, which means that there are jobs available in this industry year-round. So what are the career opportunities in the building component industry? Well, the very first and most accessible is working in manufacturing, also referred to often as production. And so a worker in manufacturing would bring lumber to the saws. They would be a sawyer and cut the lumber. They would work at the tables and assemble the parts into either trusses or wall panels. And they would work in the yard to keep those components in organized fashion, getting them ready for the trucks. Another career opportunity, which requires some specialized training, is to be a delivery driver. This typically would require a Class A or a Class B CDL, and in many states like Washington, it also requires a boom operator certificate. So this is a bit of a specialized role, but it is the person who takes the wall panels or the floor trusses or the roof trusses to the job site, and in some states actually cranes them onto the structure. In other states, they just get offloaded onto the ground. Another opportunity in this industry is to be a truss designer. Now I put truss designer up there, but also wall panel designer. And this is a person who takes drawings that are given to them by the architect or engineer of record. They interpret them and utilize the software that's provided within our industry to create designs that can be manufactured out in the shop. And so a truss designer works very closely with the salesperson, which we'll talk about in a moment, the customer, the engineer of record, the architect, and also the plant. So this is a vital role. It requires some training. Oftentimes that training can happen while you are working at the component manufacturer. The component manufacturing industry, like many other businesses, also has roles for administrative personnel, human resources, bookkeeping, and other more traditional administrative roles. And so that's an opportunity within the component manufacturing industry as well. Sometimes those roles are filled by people who have learned the skills outside of the component manufacturing business, but there are also opportunities to train into those roles if you start out in a different role, such as manufacturing or driving or any of the others. Another important role in the component manufacturing industry is the sales rep. This person has the opportunity to build relationships, to solve problems for our customers, and they work closely with, like the designer, they work closely with the architect, the customer, and the builder. And that is typically a role that is trained within our industry. Most sales reps have worked their way up through other roles within the component manufacturing industry. Component manufacturers also need managers. There needs to be a plant manager, a shift manager, maybe a shipping manager. Multiple people work to coordinate the crews and make sure that the whole operation is moving smoothly. These managers oftentimes work their way up through the ranks in the truss manufacturing plant or the component manufacturing plant. That's how I got to a point where I became the owner of a plant myself. Is I started out in manufacturing and worked my way through the majority of these other roles and eventually become a manager and the owner. Another important point to note about the component manufacturing industry is many of these positions are achievable without having a college degree. Much of it is on-the-job training. There are opportunities for hands-on work and also computer-based work, and there is fast advancement for people who show initiative. So like we talked about a little bit earlier, many of these positions end up being filled by someone who started out in a very basic role and just had some aspiration and the ability to move forward. So let's dive into each of these positions just a little bit more and talk about what is required to be successful in one of these positions. So a manufacturer is going to work on the shop floor. They're going to build the trusses, whether they're roof trusses or floor trusses, or they'll build the wall panels. It requires the ability to work as part of a team, to be accurate in your work, and to have a good work ethic. I'm not going to kid you. This is hard work doing the manufacturing. It's also very rewarding. The manufacturing position is often a great starting point in order to work into the other positions in the company. What does it take to be a delivery driver? Well, first off, you have to have a good, clean driving record. Many times you can be trained to receive your commercial driver's license within the company that you're working for, but you can also come into the company with a CDL, like we talked about earlier, a Class A or a Class B. So you need to have a clean record. You're going to transport large jobs to job sites, and you need to do so safely. They can be very complex. In some companies, you'll also load the truck. Other companies, they may have separate people load the truck for you. And this is also a role that is customer facing. And so it's important to have good customer service and present a good image for the company. In order to be successful as a component designer, you will need to have the ability to work at a computer and be comfortable with different kinds of software. There are several industry-specific softwares that we use in order to design roof trusses, floor trusses, and wall panels. You'll need to have a good spatial awareness because you'll be responsible for taking two-dimensional drawings and turning them into 3D models. It'll be important to have solid, basic math skills, and this position is very often trained on the job while you're working for the truss manufacturer. Also, you'll need to have the ability to communicate well and work as part of the sales team and the manufacturing team because you're essentially a liaison between the salesperson who wants to meet the customer's needs and the manufacturing team that needs to build what the customer is looking for. In an admin role or a human resources role, you'll need to be very organized. You'll need to have good interpersonal skills, the ability to work alone as well as in a team. The sales rep position in a component manufacturing company is a great place for someone who is outgoing and also able to be detail-orientated. This person will need to work with the builder, the architect, the end customer potentially, and communicate well to the designer in order to make sure that the needs are met. They'll need to be able to read blueprints and understand the product very well. This is a technical sales position. Finally, a management role in a component manufacturing company is a position where you'll be working with multiple teams, coordinating workflow, and making sure that things are being done in an efficient and cost-effective fashion, while at the same time ensuring that the people that you work with are receiving the treatment, the training, and the resources that they need to do their job well and be satisfied doing it. Wages in the component manufacturing industry are competitive with other wages in the construction industry. Because things vary so much regionally, I don't think it's appropriate to talk about specific numbers, but it is safe to say that entry level is typically significantly above a minimum wage job, and there is lots of room for growth and definitely an opportunity to have a good wage and good career to support your family. In addition to competitive wages, there's also opportunity for career growth, on-the-job training, and as mentioned before, in many cases, you can achieve a high-paying career without needing a college degree, and most of the training that you receive can be while you're working on the job. A career in the component industry is also great because you can work pretty much anywhere in the country. Whether you're in a rural setting or urban, there's likely to be a component manufacturing plant close to you. In some cases, especially for design roles, those can also be filled remotely. So you may live in one place and design for a company that is hundreds or thousands of miles away from you. What skills do you need in order to be successful in a component manufacturing company? Well, some basic math skills are going to be very important. You're going to need to be able to communicate well and work as a team. Blueprint reading is a good skill to have. That's one that can be trained on the job. It's important to be comfortable working with tools and or computers. You're very likely to be using both. And most importantly, a willingness to learn. The component manufacturing industry is similar in some ways to a lot of other industries, but it's also very unique. And so it's unlikely that you're going to come into a component manufacturing plant knowing all the skills that are necessary, but it's very likely that the manufacturing plant that you're working for is going to be happy to teach you many of those skills. So let's wrap this up. The component manufacturing industry is a great opportunity if you are someone who likes working as a team, has the ability to work by yourself, doesn't mind getting your hands a little bit dirty, and enjoys helping others in order to put together a product that almost everybody needs, whether they're using a house, a shed, a school, or a fire station. That's likely to have product on it that you can help build. So if you'd like to explore an opportunity for a career in the component manufacturing industry, there are many ways that you can do that. You can search truss or manufacturer. You could search CAD technician or designer. And you could also just look up truss manufacturers in your area and give them a call. We're always happy to help. I hope this video has been helpful for you, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon.